The big game is fast approaching, but wait, you still haven't got your tickets. You've spent hours searching, but you're still confused about ticket prices. Time to stop searching. Visit ticketcompare.com. We compare ticket prices for all the popular leagues and tournaments for you. We work only with the most trustworthy sites, so you can have peace of mind when buying your tickets. Compare prices, buy tickets, get to the game. Ticketcompare.com. Buying tickets made simple.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
How are you all?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
What, a couple of days?
Sunday was alright.
So, in a way of these things, Gary, Sky will go first, as they spend the most money.
Not personally in his case, I'm guessing.
Certainly not. He's never been too long. More broadcast questions and Rob at the back there. Is that it on broadcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we'll do a little bit for the writtens afterwards.
Okay.
Rob, take it away.
Gary, first of all, thanks for talking to us, mate. This isn't easy, so we appreciate that. I think all of us, in fairness.
Yeah, can I just answer that? Because it's not, I know it's not particularly a question, but it was something that I wanted to do. I spoke to Martin about it yesterday, and it's something that I asked if we can do, because, I think it's important with this that I get over what I wanted to say, and the first part of it is about Tony. Like, this isn't, nobody is happy about the situation that we're in. I think he's done a fantastic job at this football club and other ones in the past, and he's a friend of mine, and it's not nice. We've been talking about things in this last, whatever it is, 24, 48 hours. I've spoken to him quite a few times, and it's always sad when a manager loses his job, but certainly when it's somebody as close as Tony. So I wanted to do that without people putting two and two together, because I think he's done a fantastic job at this club. If the relationship has run its course between Tony and the football club, then fine, that happens. But he's done a brilliant job, and he's one of a few managers that can turn around and say he's never been relegated. So he's going to be sought after by others, I'm sure.
You say you've spoken to him a lot. How is it?
Yeah.
Has he heard, or did he see this? Coming up? He sounded as though he almost expected it the other day.
I don't know about expect, but Tony's long in the tooth. I think he's taken over 1,000 games, and we're both similar. I ain't taken that many, but I think it's about 650. So between us, we've seen a lot of things happen, and when the results aren't coming, and certainly in the Goldfish Bowl that the Premiership is, it's you know that you're going to be under pressure, and that's just the way it is. And it's a few managers before this point have succumbed to that, and now my mate has. So it's like I say, it's not a nice thing. There's nothing for celebration here at all.
It was pretty obvious that the manager had lost a proportion of the Albion fans towards the end. Were the players still behind him though, or had he lost the dressing room? No. That's a bit of a misnomer in terms of lost the dressing room. When you're a manager of a football club, there's always some players who aren't being picked. They're not going to be as happy as the ones who are being picked, and such is life. So you can't really get away from that. In terms of the support, the support at West Brom doesn't need reproach at all. It's fantastic support, but they react to the results. And I don't think, obviously there were one or two grumblings which you would expect, but it was certainly nothing I got at like I got at Bolton for winning games. So it was just one of those things, like that it just goes hand in hand. You can't get away from it. Was it really tough to hear, particularly in that last game against Chelsea, though, the fans calling for Pulis to be sacked? Yeah, because you don't like to hear that, and Tony's he's a really decent guy, and he's got problems at the moment with his grandson, and we're aware of those things, and you feel sorry for people, but that's the profession that we're in, and people aren't expected to know that. That's fine, but it's he won't be the first, and he won't be the last that suffers that. People react to what they're seeing in terms of the results, and they're not particularly happy, and you have to accept that, and Tony does. As I say, he's an experienced guy. I don't want to pry, but his grandson's poorly, is he?
He was, but like, there's been good news. That's what I've been phoning about. Like, to firstly see how Nico is, not so much himself. He's big enough and daft enough to cope, but Nico's only very young. He's only a few weeks old, and he's having to cope with that on top of the football. But the good news is that he's doing okay. He did go into hospital, and I spoke to Tony last night, and he says he's improving.
What about timescale? Have you been given any idea of how long you're going to be in this role?
No, again, that's why I talked to this, because you lot could have stayed at home and given me your pens and all that type of stuff. You know what's coming. No, the chairman spoke to me early yesterday morning. Just said what happened with Tony, and that would I take over in the interim period. So it's in my contract. I do as I'm told, which is what I'm doing. I've never asked how long, I've never asked what they're doing, and all I'm going to do is just keep going until I'm told otherwise. Your next thing, like, you're interested in the job and all that type of stuff. It's not about that. I haven't thought about that. I've only been here 4 months, and that was to help me mate. I'm not daft enough to think I would be at West Brom other than Tony Pulis being here. So we've still got the sadness of Tony not being here, but the club has got to be kept going. So I've taken 650 games, I've taken thousands upon thousands of training sessions, and we've decided, or they've decided, that I take over for whatever it might be, 24 hours. Who knows how long it's going to be.
Would you like to stay on as assistant without Tony Pulis?
No, because it's being assistant to Tony. It's like, I've been an assistant for 12 games and a manager for whatever it is, 600 and odd. And it's not something that I particularly want to do. So, as I say, I haven't given that any thought, but I wouldn't have come here anyway if it had been somebody else. Excuse me.
What about Tony Pulis? You obviously think incredibly highly of him, as a lot of people do in the game.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a problem for him now in his reputation, almost? Because he's got this incredible reputation as going in and rescuing clubs from relegation.
Yeah.
And he's lost 2 jobs now at Stoke and here, where it's almost always been criticised for not being able to take them on further. Is that a damage? Is that a reputation that he doesn't deserve, almost?
Yeah, I think it's like there's a time thing as well. I was talking to Tony week before last. I was a player with Jack Charlton, who's a good friend of mine. I got great with him. And Jack once said to me, he says, I think they're at Newcastle actually, he said, if ever you go into this, he says, like 3 years, he says, the first year, you say jump, everybody jumps. Second year, you say jump, they say how high do you want to jump. Third year, say jump. So we've been doing that for 2 years. And it just becomes the norm, and you become a victim of your own success, if you like, and it gets more and more difficult. I think Alex Ferguson came out once and said that you need to keep refreshing and changing the players. But whatever way you look at it, once you've been at any football club for a while, then it does get harder and harder. And people like Wenger and Ferguson, like they deserve an enormous amount of credit, not just for being successful and really good managers, but being able to stay at football clubs for that long is unbelievable.
You know this club very well. What type of manager does it need now, do you think?
I don't know. Other people need to make that call. Like, they've just they've had a very, very good manager in Tony, and that's moved on. It's not for me to say. All I'm here for is just to try and take the team for whatever they want, and try and keep it chugging along, and give them the time to see what they want to do, and I'm sure they'll make the right decision for the club and the supporters.
13th, 14th, and 10th. Are expectation levels too high?
Well, you'd have to ask people what they expect first of all. Like, there is, when the season starts, I'm guessing there would be 6 that want to win it. It might be even less than that if they're being realistic. Everybody else is starting with the same things. They want to stay in it. So from our own point of view, we're sat here today talking about something that could have been so different just really easily. If we don't make a mistake against Stoke, we'd have another 2 points. If we organise a little bit better in the last few seconds against Watford and shift that would be another 2. And then if we hang on and make a better decision against Leicester, that would be another 2. So we've got 6 more points than we've got. We wouldn't be sat here now. You'd all be somewhere else. But it just shows you the dividing line is so wafer thin between success and failure.
Last one from me. How are the players? How do you lift them from this? Are they down? Are they low on confidence?
They're probably low on confidence, not because of this, but because of the results and the way that we've been playing of late. But there's only one way of getting through that. Somebody's asked me this morning how they were in training, but they've always been very good in training. But that's not where the bread and butter is. The bread and butter is in playing. There's only when people talk about nerves or a lack of confidence. If you're actually thinking about it, then you're going to convince yourself that you're not particularly confident. If you're hurtling all over the field and you're closing down and you're winning tackles and you're getting forward, crosses, finishing, all that type of stuff, you won't have time to think about whether you're nervous or not. So that's what we've got to try and instill in them as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Gary, during the training session and talking to the players, do you sense that they feel a sense of responsibility that the manager's now gone?
They wouldn't say so directly, but I'd be disappointed if that wasn't the case. But football squads and football teams, they've played for other managers and they'll play for other managers in the future. So I don't think it's a case of responsibility. We've got a few players that's not been playing as well as they can do, and it's culminated in a run against. We knew what we needed to do initially, because our last 4 fixtures have included 3 of the best teams in Europe, and we went to Huddersfield, played poorly and lost that one, which has brought us to this position. In terms of whether they feel responsible for Tony, I'm not so sure, but they will know that everybody plays a part in being successful or failing.
Position in the table, 1 point, 1 place above the relegation zone. Is that a reflection on what Albion have, or is it just that everyone's been underperforming?
I think there's been underperformances, but as I was saying to Rob there, it's we could quite easily, I'm sure other clubs can, but we could quite easily make a case where we should be sat there with 6 more points now, and we wouldn't be in this in this position that we're in. But it's happened, and we've got to cope with that. And we just have to accept the position that we're in. We've got the Tottenham game coming up. Fantastic side. I thought their performance against Real Madrid in Madrid was brilliant. Real top class performance. So we're under no illusions about the actual game itself. But we've got to fulfil the fixture like everybody else has, and there's only one way to have a go. Like we spoke to the players at half time on Saturday. You're 3-0 down to again one of the best teams in Europe. What do you do? There's only two options. You either roll your sleeves up and have a go at it, or you give in. So we've got to make sure that we roll our sleeves up.